Welcome to Journeys Through Sociology, a series of interviews with the Executive Committee of the International Sociological Association. I'm Lalebe Bahanyan, and our guest today is Dr. Raquel Sosa, who is joining us from Mexico City. Dr. Sosa is a professor of Latin American Studies at the National Autonomous University of Mexico. She earned her BA in Sociology, MA in Latin American Studies, and PhD in History from the National Autonomous University of Mexico before going on to teach there for the past 35 years. In addition to her work with the ISA, she's also a former president of ALAS, the Latin American Sociological Association. Dr. Sosa has written extensively on Latin American social thought in the 19th and 20th centuries, as well as having done research on forms of social and political violence, and most recently, working on issues related to education. But Dr. Sosa's work has extended beyond academia into Mexican politics, having served as the Secretary of Social Development, as well as the Secretary of Culture for the Mexico City government. Dr. Sosa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Lale, and thanks to all the team that's working very hard to do this possible.
Thank you. Well, Dr. Sosa, my hope is that today we'll get a chance to talk a bit about the various different components of your work, your research, your teaching, your political work. But just to kind of start us off, could you perhaps share a bit about some component of the work you're currently doing that you're particularly excited about?
Yes, I'll be very glad to do that. I would like to point three issues I'm very excited about working on. The first issue is what I do for the ISA. I'm the vice president of program, and my task is to help organize the plenaries of our future Congress in Yokohama. But I accepted this task because it was particularly interesting for me to work on the theme facing inequality, which is not only an academic issue, but I would say it's probably the most important social problem nowadays around the world. And to face inequality, I think we have to, as sociologists, accomplish several things. First of all, to understand very clearly what this problem, what's the dimension of this problem, socially, academically, as a processus, and everything that it involves. Then we have to hear different voices all over the world, from people who have been excluded, who have suffered inequality, etc. And then we have to hear the governments too, and international organizations to know what they are planning to do to overcome inequality. It's a big task, but I think the ISA is completely prepared to do that, and I'll be very happy to make a small contribution of what I do think that sociologists can make in this important, very important international debate. And of course, whatever comes from it, no? I mean, in public policies and political issues all over the world. I hope we can make a better world. That's the main thing. Then I would like to say that CLACSO, which is a very big social science organization in Latin America, has appointed me to be part of a commission which will study the social sciences problems in Latin America, or rather the state of social science in Latin America. And we do have to write a report on the present state of social sciences for next year's General Assembly, which will be around 3,000 colleagues of all Latin America coming to the General Assembly, which will, by the way, will take place in Mexico City. And we will have also the directors and coordinators of all the most important academic institutions all through Latin America. So this is a great issue for me. And the third thing is that in ALAS, we have started a great experience of both of research and of, let's say, diffusion of our work, which is called Frontiers of Knowledge. And I'm working very hard with a team of researchers all over Latin America to find out what are the possibilities of making a real interdisciplinary work in social sciences, in sociology in particular, meeting not only with the traditional things, I mean, economy or anthropology or so, even psychology, but working more in fields not so dealt with in traditional social sciences like art, culture, history, and different popular experiences of knowledge. I think that's a great thing to do, because I have been sort of frustrated about what interdisciplinarity can mean. And I'm working on that. And with my own students, I'm also working very hard on redefining the place of time and space and all these notions, important notions in social research. So I think that there are many things to do, but everything comes together.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but could you say a bit more about your frustration about what interdisciplinarity sometimes comes to mean, and how you attempt to kind of rethink it with your students and in your teaching?
Yes, I think one of the things, and maybe I'm going in advance to a different question you've asked me to prepare. One of the things that attracted me to do work in social sciences, and especially to work in Latin America, was that it's possible to look for different explanations of social reality, not coming only from sociology, but coming from other places and meeting other places, I would say, from different fields of knowledge, scientific knowledge, but also the great experience of knowledge that society has put together, let's say, around the world. When we say we have to do interdisciplinary work, we mean it in the Latin Americanist fields. But usually in sociology, that is not possible. There are a lot of prejudices to make things get together in sociology and history and art and culture and everything, and find a more complex and more integrated explanation of what the world is really like in contemporary world. So I'm frustrated because I have worked in different fields of knowledge, history and Latin American studies and sociology, and they, in our institutions, in our academic institutions, usually don't get together. I mean, I'm a part of a postgraduate Latin American studies program, and we do have the literature people and the culture people and the philosophy people and the history people and economy people and sociologists, but each makes his own or her own work, and we haven't been able to put it together as society in the reality, in the real world does. So I would say that.
So, I mean, clearly you work hard at kind of pushing the disciplinary boundaries of sociology and bringing, work together across those boundaries. But can I ask you, specifically in terms of sociology, because your own training is, quite interdisciplinary, as you said, sociology and history and Latin American studies. But in terms of sociology in particular, what would you say, what were some of the reasons that you were drawn to sociology as a discipline?
You say in the first place, as a young person, I would say three things. First of all, I felt, since I was a very little girl, and my parents were always very worried about us reading and having a cultural, let's say, grounds to work with, and knowledge of music and arts and history and etc., I felt very responsible about knowing many things and not giving the people or giving a society or giving others in general what they have given us back. I mean, I felt the need to give others what different people have given me. That was the first thing that moved me. And I couldn't do it just sitting around my table and working and reading, which I, of course, like very much. But I had to go beyond my own table and my own library and my own school class and try to return some of the things I have been given, and I feel as a privilege to have acquired. Then the second thing was just this. I mean, sociology was presented to me as a field that was not as obtuse as other disciplinary fields. I mean, sociology was a place where you could learn from history, you could learn from science, you can learn from psychoanalysis, you could learn from art and literature and whatever. I mean, it was an open field for me. At the end, it was not so much as I would have liked to. And that's why I've always keep on looking for different frontiers of knowledge. But that was a question that fascinated me, to look into the interdisciplinary possibilities of knowledge. And the third thing is that I have always, I mean, from a very long time, I have been fascinated by whatever accomplishments can be made from the fact that people organize themselves and get together, and that is the focus on sociological work, get together to do things, and they can change things, and they can, each era gives you different experiences and different possibilities of knowledge. And that is all made by people who have got together and who have been organized and do have views and express their wills and express their thoughts and also their fears. And this is, for me, the most fascinating fact of sociological study.
Mm-hmm. So it's clear that you're drawn to sociology in the sense of the potential that it poses in terms of giving back to the community, in terms of possibilities for social change. But one of the issues that I've also discussed with the other ISA members in these interviews, Dr. Sosa, is also not just the potential that they see in sociology, but the challenges they faced. And you've already begun to kind of speak a little bit about some frustrations that you've had, but can you share with us, what would you say perhaps are three of the most significant challenges you faced as a sociologist?
Yes, of course. Well, the first thing I would point out is to combine academic and public activities, which are both very important for me. I mean, in academia, I can join my colleagues, I can read a lot, I can be very interested in theoretical and historical and so on, different kinds of debates, and that is fascinating for me. I do love to work in libraries and archives and spend many, many hours there. And of course, I love my work as a teacher, and everything I can do to socialize whatever I think I have learned or I think I can give to others. I'm always ready to do that. But I'm also ready to work on people's problems, to be able to listen to people's problems, to be aware of what is going on in the world, and always try to make a contribution, because as I said before, I think our place is quite privileged in the world. we can be together. We have the possibility to share even these moments with technological possibilities, advances that I would think that 85% of the world does not have. So if we are privileged, then we have to listen to others, and we have to do whatever we can to make other people's lives better also with what we know, with what we can do. Then that would be then the first challenge I think we have to, at least I have to always think of and work on. The other thing, the second challenge would be, I feel quite responsible for having this privileged situation, particularly in education. And this is why in the past few years, around 8 or 10 years, I have worked very much in understanding what has become of education and how can education be the door that can let people in another world and make life be better and give solutions to different problems. And of course, I do find many difficulties in the educational system. Of course, I'm working particularly on Latin America, but I do feel that university people are most responsible. As it's like we were the parents of the rest of the educational system, and we do have to give solutions to make education better. And I keep thinking of that, and I'm working all the time it's quite a challenge, because education has got worse and not better, even in places where you would believe they have more resources, like the United States or England or France. Things are not right, and very big community, very big educational communities are protesting and feeling uncomfortable about the state of education. So I think it's a great challenge to make things change in education.
Yes, actually, I mean, as you say that, Dr. Sosa, today is, we're filming here I'm here at UC Berkeley, and today is actually a UC-wide state day of action and rallies and protests around the educational system and budget cuts and exactly all of these issues that you're talking about. Yes. Exactly.
Yes. And many colleagues do think that it's one thing, a very important thing, just to keep on doing their own work. But I think that we have to do a lot of work to socialize our ideas and to help others understand what is going on. Why are things so wrong when people are so eager to get into the educational system, and what is going on there, and what can we, people who know about the thing and who can do research and so on, do to help things to be changed in the educational system as a whole. And the last thing, and it's a more an ethical thing, an ethical issue for me, is that I feel urged to always have a very humble attitude towards what other people, maybe colleagues, but also people involved in their own strategies of survival, or even, of course, those who do not share my views or my way of living, have to say about the things that worry me, and try to make a connection with them. No one does have the complete truth or the possibilities to define things by him or herself. So if we don't get too much in love with our accomplishments and don't feel too proud to be the great professor who has an international post and who is recognized, but we look at the huge tasks we have in front, maybe we can feel that we are smaller than what we believe to be, and that we need a lot of effort, a lot of collective activities, and understand what people are meaning when they protest, when they ask for social justice, or when they suffer intolerance or discrimination or racism or whatever types of violence and so on is being suffered in the world, and that we have to feel a great empathy towards different human beings that are together with us in this contemporary world.
And I mean, clearly, Dr. Sosa, one of the main themes throughout this interview has been your vision of the sociologist as attempting to make an impact on the public world, to kind of attempt to understand the problems, people's problems, as you say, and to address these issues of inequality, of violence. And I know one of the ways that you've attempted to kind of bring academia and an actual work in publics together has been through your political work. As Secretary of Social Development and Secretary of Culture with the Mexico City government. And I think that's definitely one aspect of your work that sets you apart from many other sociologists. So I would be interested in hearing a bit about that, and how for you, your work as a sociologist and your work within politics, how they may inform or shape each other, how you juggle those two things.
Well, these are difficult things to combine, really, because you always tend to have a view that comes from your academic background. So you do have, in a tongue, you always do have an explanation of what is the problem and what can be done. So it takes a lot to have the patience and the humble attitude I was speaking of, to understand that other people think differently from what you are thinking, and that they do not share that ground, but they need to have answers. Well, the experience of Mexico City was extraordinary because I had never had a public office job before that. And that meant that you can imagine Mexico City is around the 25% of Mexico as a whole, of the country as a whole, and one of the biggest cities in the world. We do have 8.5 million residents in Mexico City, but we do have around 22 million people working and suffering and getting ill and having education and whatever in Mexico City every day. So this was a huge experience, and I found that some things were very important for me to have as a point of departure. First of all, I did not know, well, mostly everything about public office, but as a university person, I could study, and I did. I mean, I had to learn administration and public administration, and I had to learn about law, and I had to learn about different aspects of social life, violence, the situation of women, education, sports. Even I was in charge of the zoos in Mexico City and also the Philharmonic Orchestra. I sat around the Philharmonic Orchestra to discuss what was going on and what were their problems. We had a huge program for young people also. So it was a huge amount of budget also from Mexico City. It was a great responsibility. And we had to give answers, and give answers very quickly. And the chief of government was extraordinary for that, because he's a very keen person, and he knows a lot and did have a lot of previous experience on Mexico City management, which helped me a lot. He was also my companion, my colleague at the National University, where we were both students together. That's where that came from. But then the second thing I had to do is to know that if the task was huge, the worst thing I could do was to feel frustrated or paralyzed because I felt I couldn't do anything or everything that was needed. So I decided that we had to give an example of how things can be done, and to listen to the people and to work very close together with them so that they wouldn't feel that it was our idea of how things should be done, but theirs, and that they had to intervene, and people intervened in every aspect of the social program. So it was extraordinary. Communities discussing what kind of education would their children have, or communities discussing how to make an habitational unit better, and how to make public places more beautiful, and what would they want to read. We bought, I don't know, hundreds and thousands of books for people to read, and we asked them what they wanted to read, what they wanted to know, and give it to them. And of course, be incredibly sensitive towards people's needs, and you never finish that. And it's incredible when you know that you can't do anything and you don't have a budget to do everything, but you have to be there and accompany people, and that's a great value. So I learned that, and I did have a possibility to participate for 4 years as a social development secretary, and then for 2 more years as a culture secretary. And what I learned is what I was telling you about the challenges and my worries now, is that education is really not a door, I should say the gate, the gate to change things, to make people feel better, to make them know that they can do things for themselves to change things, and to understand that whatever is good in the world, it has been created by extraordinary human beings, workers, and housewives, and children, and old people, extraordinary old people who have all the knowledge of the world, and women who have been incredibly brave to point out what things have to be sorted out in the world and what can't be accepted as it has been happening. And so that's extraordinary to have had the possibility to learn all of these things. I sometimes think it's a little difficult because I have so much experiences that whenever someone talks to me about something, I say, oh yes, we did have that at Mexico City. And we did have, of course, I don't know, schools of artistic education, different experiences of alternative education in different fields, and many works that have made me have the security that things can be a lot better if we take it very, very seriously to make a better educational system.
So, Dr. Sosa, I'm sad to say that our time is running short, but there's one final question I would like to ask you, which I've asked of all the other ISA members. And in your case, you know, the question is, if you hadn't become a sociologist, what else might you have liked to pursue? And in your case, you have actually pursued some other things. But as you look back on your life, is there anything else that you might have liked to have done?
Yes, of course. I would... Certainly, I would have worked in something having to do with music, first place, or literature. As a matter of fact, I sing and I have sung. Some of my colleagues have heard me and in different places. And of course, I write a lot. I would have liked to have poetry and maybe short stories or novels or whatever, but I'm sure I would have devoted myself to art, to literature, to music, to whatever. But then this social thing I have in my soul has told me that I wouldn't have been very happy if I had stayed at home. So I had to go out and have these world experiences and be part
Fascinating
of it.
listening to them. It's been really wonderful having you. Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
very
joining
much.
us, Dr. Sosa.
Okay, thank you, Lale.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. This has been another journey through sociology with Dr. Raquel Sosa. We look forward to next week when we'll be joined by Dr. Jaime Jimenez, also from Mexico City.